30 years since an RAF helicopter crashed on the Mull of Kintyre, killing 29 people. And later today, their families will have a landmark meeting with government ministers.
Members of the Chinook Justice Campaign are pushing for a judge-led inquiry. In a moment, we will speak to two people who lost loved ones in the crash. But first, here's more from our reporter Tim Moffat.
An RAF Chinook helicopter on its way from Northern Ireland to Inverness crashed tonight in thick fog on the Mull of Kintyre. No survivors have yet been found, and it's feared all the 29 people on board have been killed.
June the 2nd, 1994, and an RAF Chinook helicopter crashes on the Mull of Kintyre, a remote headland in southwestern Scotland. The scale of the loss is devastating.
The passengers aboard were service personnel, Ulster policemen and officials of the Northern Ireland office.
For more than 30 years, there have been questions and controversies surrounding the crash. What was the cause? Who, if anyone, was to blame? And why have government files relating to the crash been sealed by the Ministry of Defence for 100 years? Detective Chief Superintendent Maurice Neely from the Royal Ulster Constabulary was amongst the dead. His son Darren is part of the Chinook Justice Campaign.
I've gone through different emotions. I've gone from a 13-year-old boy to a 44-year-old man now, and I'm still gobsmacked. Every day we're finding out something. I talk to my mother all the time, and it's very emotional. But it's not just about me, it's about people who are not here anymore.
In 1995, an RAF Board of Inquiry found the two pilots, Flight Lieutenants Jonathan Tapper and Richard Cook, guilty of gross negligence, even though no evidence had been found to support this view. It was a hugely controversial decision which dismayed their families. In 2011, the Ministry of Defence apologised for blaming the pilots for the crash, after the government announced that the charges of gross negligence were not sustainable and should be set aside.
I have written to the widows of the two pilots, to the father of Jonathan Tapper and to the brother of Richard Cook to express the Ministry of Defence's apology for the distress which was caused to them by the findings of negligence.
Questions about the airworthiness of the Chinook helicopter have kept coming. These Chinooks were filmed at RAF Odium in the days after the accident, and we now know there had been many warnings about potential safety issues before the crash. The Chinook Justice Group has now published 225 new questions it once answered. There are more than 300 in total. Why were key technical documents withheld from previous inquiries, for example? If some felt the Chinook wasn't airworthy, why was it allowed to fly?
We just want to know why you would put so many important people on one flight, risking their lives and impacting so many other lives. What we've had to go through after the last 31 years, as a result of that decision, we need answers as to why, and we're still fighting now.
The Chinook Justice Group says it wants full transparency, full candour, and to finally start getting to the full truth. Tim Moffat, BBC News.
Well, we're joined now by Dr. Susan Phoenix, whose husband Ian died in the crash, along with Andy Tobias, whose father John was also killed. Good morning to both of you. We appreciate you joining us. I know it's an important day. Susan, just explain how important is this meeting with the government?
Good morning and thanks for having us. Yes, it's very important. We're hoping that today is the day that we can change our not even joking title of the Ministry of Defence from the Ministry of Deceit to the ministry who listens and learns and admits that lessons need to be learnt, and they were not. For 31 years, 3 decades, different members of staff have come forward and they've completed permanently the mantra, a tragic accident. We don't want that anymore. We want them to accept us as thinking, suffering families who deserve answers. We have been inadvertently misled, which is what the Ministry of Defence have put in several letters to me, when they actually meant, really sorry, we sent you a lie.
And Andy, you were a little boy when your dad died, and I know you do have some memories of him, but this has dominated your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing up without a father is a really, really tough thing. So it changes the course of who you are as a person, what decisions you make in life. So it's been really, really tough. But it's only in the last 18 months when we found out that documents related to the crash had been locked and sealed away, that it was just incredible. We just did not know that was happening. And we've also found out so much more new evidence about the lack of airworthiness of the Chinook helicopter. So this meeting is extremely important today to put these hundreds of unanswered questions to the Ministry of Defence, because they can't keep pushing this mantra that there's nothing new to see here, there's no new evidence, there's no new questions, because there are lots of things that have never been discussed in previous inquiries. And we want to ensure the Ministry of Defence listen to us today and maybe reflect on what we're going to be asking them.
And Andy, do you feel at this point, after all of these years, that you might be getting a little bit closer to some of those answers?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the first meeting with ministers from the Ministry of Defence in 31 years, so having that meeting is a huge step forward. And we really do hope they listen to us today and they're open and transparent. And we're currently going through the process of some legal proceedings because we've had a public inquiry rejected by the Ministry of Defence. And maybe with the evidence and the facts about the lack of airworthiness today that we present to them, maybe they will actually change their minds and agree to a public inquiry, and we can put an end to these legal proceedings, because we don't want to be dragging our family members through the courts. We have some family members who, fathers, mothers of those deceased on the crash, still alive. They don't need to go through this. And, you know, I've got young children. I don't want to be dragging my family through this as well. So we hope they're open, transparent, and they listen to what we have to say. And any luck, they may just give us that public inquiry.
Susan, you've said before that you're doing this for Ian, the husband that you lost more than 30 years ago. What do you think he would be wanting you to say in that meeting today?
Well, being the straight-talking Irishman that he was, he would just want the truth. He didn't ever, what's it called, miss and hit the wall. He always said things as they were, and he wants truth. But just for everybody, when you think that at least 30 other people have died in other air crashes since ours because the lessons were not learnt. My own son, who was an RAF pilot, lost 10 of his friends almost immediately after our crash. Lessons were not learnt. And also, Ian was all for the rights of the individual. It's more fashionable these days than when he was alive, but he wouldn't stop until somebody stands up and says, hey, we got it wrong. That's all we want. It wasn't the people who are in this generation now that got it wrong, it was the predecessors. And who are they protecting? We think we know. We have a lot of evidence, especially in our friend David Hill's book here, who he writes it for charities. But look, half of that book is about the evidence that the MOD seem to think is hidden. He has documents, we have the documents. We need the final documents to see whose fault was it, who put those men on an aircraft that had 50 faults, 50 safety critical faults. Would you get in my car if I told you it had 50 faults? No. We want to know who made those decisions and why.
Well, we will hear today how that meeting goes. We really appreciate your time, Dr. Susan Phoenix and Andy Tobias. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast.
Thank you.